You have provided that. The bomb shelter that we did not have was putting us in a situation where, how can you bring children to do therapy if there goes a siren and there's no place for them to go?
Welcome to Second Chance Youth Ranch TV. I'm your host, Perry Black, and on this show we are honored to have a very special guest from San Antonio, or where are you from?
Well, originally from El Paso.
El Paso. We got a Texas with us, a Texan, all the way from New York City.
Correct.
And I ask you off air, why in the world would you go from Texas to New York? Our special guest, Russell Robinson, with the Jewish National Fund. And so, as I said off the air, I'm completely or partially ignorant about what you do and the Jewish National Fund. That's why I wanted to have you on air, because if that's my case, there may be several 100,000 people or more around Arkansas and the VTN viewing audience who also are curious about the Jewish National Fund. Certainly, Russell, with all that's going on in the world right now. So before we do anything on this show, which is really primarily about fostering, mentoring, and adopting, and how people can get involved and change the life of a child. As a Christian, I want to know how we can help Israel. And that's why I want you to be on the show. So if we're going to help children through your ministry and your organization, we're helping children in Israel. So tell us about you. Did you grow up in El Paso?
Born and raised. First off, thank you very much for having me here on the show, and thank you for giving me and the organization Israel the opportunity to tell the story in a much a grander way and to a bigger audience.
You're born in Israel, born in El Paso. Tell me about that, your mom and dad.
So it's a story. My mother was born in El Paso. Her brother was born in Germany. My grandparents got out before the Holocaust. I always find it fascinating. I like genealogy. I believe everybody should always know where they're coming from. There was 7 brothers and sisters. One somehow got to El Paso and would write a letter home and say, we could get you a job.
Why El Paso?
Was it I think it was
vocation?
A trade. I think it was, back then when the immigrants were coming in, you found places that you could trade, and you didn't have to speak the language. You could start dry goods businesses, which was, point and measure and sell. And
was it a community open to the Jewish community?
Very much so back then. Yeah. I had parts in my life that changed, and you could see the growth of the community. My father's Canadian.
Okay.
And I tell this story lovingly. My father is Canadian because we're from the first Jewish settlers in Virginia in 1790.
Wow, way back.
And they came from the French side of Alsace-Lorraine. So my grandfather opened up clothing stores in Canada. My father, after World War II, didn't want to go into the family business. There was somebody who was in the liquidation business in Southwest. He took a train to El Paso. What he didn't know, and this is something for all your viewers to know, Jewish mothers can smell a single Jewish man 3 days away, and they were waiting on the train tracks. And by the time he got off, he said, I don't know if I want to live here, but by Sunday he was there. Tuesday, by Thursday it was too late, and he married my mother, and we were born. There's 4 brothers there, and El Paso was a small town. It's much larger today than it was there, but we had incidents of anti-Jewish incidences growing up. And
did you go to private Jewish school?
No,
or
I went to
school?
the public school. There was no private Jewish school. There was 2 congregations that were there. I think half of everybody belonged to half of the other one, and like anything else, the other half wouldn't step foot in that one, and very normal. But it was a great place to grow up. It wasn't for my Jewish involvement. It was really about an Israel involvement. My grandfather had never been to Israel. Wow. He had never been on an airplane. But he used to tell me, you're going to go to Israel someday. And I'm in El Paso, Texas. And, and he said, when you go, I want you to go to the Western Wall, to the Kotel, to the Holy Wall.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you're going to be like later in life, Russell, but just touch the wall, turn around, look at all the people. And if you decide you're going to break the chain of faith and believing and doing, I'll bless you from wherever I am.
Oh, wow.
So as a child, you'd say to your grandfather yes because you want the next toy, And
Yeah.
but in my 20s, I had that opportunity. I went to Israel. I was scared to death to touch this wall because I remember the story over and over. And I turned around and I saw people walking, people of color, people of all different kinds of faith and look and sizes, and I couldn't. It was like slow motion.
Yeah.
And I looked up and I realized my grandfather had planted all these people, and I said I would never break the chain. And that really, my passion comes from that moment.
That's amazing. How did you get involved then from El Paso to moving to New York in the Jewish National Fund?
So I was in private industry. There was a gentleman named Ronald Lauder from SD Lauder, was the president of Jewish National Fund. I did not know him then. It was 26 years ago. He called me to a meeting. I was going to be going to private industry back. And he started talking about the water catastrophe that was facing the Middle East. And I didn't know anything about water, and I didn't know why he was talking to me about a water catastrophe. And finally I said, Mr. Lauder, what do you know about water? He said, nothing.
Yeah.
I said, well, then you know a little more than I do. He said, that's why I need you as my CEO. We got to cure the water catastrophe facing Israel. And if you read articles, it said in 20, 25 years, the Middle East will be out of water and the wars will be fought over water, not over land. Mm. And I thought it was the craziest thing I ever heard in my life, but I like crazy.
Yeah.
And I will just tell you that we built a plan, and within 7 years, Israel today reuses 90% of its water, 90. The country next to it is Spain at 28%. The United States is 5%. And what we did with that plan was provide water for farmland, water for open land, water for the great Zionist dream of coming back to our homeland. And I always tell people the drop of rain doesn't know borders, but we know how to make every drop of water part of life.
That's amazing. I took some night school in college right here in Little Rock, and one of my speeches happened to be about the prophecy that Israel would return and become fruitful. And of course, Israel is one of the greatest producers of agricultural goods in the world.
In the desert, you have to understand that, and where one of your community has done a project, it's an area that gets 2 inches of rain water per year that comes in one day.
Yeah.
Yet it grows 55% of the melons that are exported from Israel.
That's amazing.
So peppers, 60% of the peppers exported. How? If you take every drop of water and turn it back into life, every drop, every drop, every drop, you're able to grow into a desert and feed an entire world.
Oh, it's amazing. It's like the Word of God. It comes down and it produces. We're going to take a brief break. We'll be right back, so don't go away.
A mission field around you is filled with young hearts needing a forever family. And at Second Chance Youth Ranch, our team is committed to providing healthy, stable, loving homes and families to hurting children in the Arkansas foster care system and those up for adoption. Please contact us if you feel the tug at your heart to help foster or adopt, and find out the steps you could take to help fulfill a child's lifelong dream. Maybe you can't foster or adopt, but you could help. The need for thousands of children in the system is staggering. But with the help of faithful partners and business alliances, we are meeting those needs right now. Would you help us make a difference? Every gift, regardless of size, impacts a child's life directly and helps provide for a home in the gap right now. Visit the Second Chance Youth Ranch website at 2CYR.org to read more, watch the stories, and to make a contribution for a hurting child's care. Monthly partners are needed, so please contact us right away. And as you partner with this ministry, you are partnering with the Heavenly Father that has promised to be Father to the fatherless. God bless you for helping Second Chance Youth Ranch.
Hey, welcome back. Our special guest, Russell Robinson with the Jewish National Fund, is going to share briefly now. Tell me, a lot of people may not realize with this young generation when did Israel return to the homeland? How many years was Israel, the Jewish people, without a homeland?
For 2,000 years. For
Wow.
2,000 years, Jews were dispersed, but we always had populations in Israel. We were always, except for only 3 years in that 2,000 years, were the majority of the population in Israel. And the story of Jewish National Fund is the story of the return. Because almost 126 years ago, a person, by the way, in his 30s, and I tell this because I want young people to know what you could do in your 30s.
Yeah.
In his 30s, he faced anti-Jewish sentiments in Vienna. He was a non-religious person, and he all of a sudden realized that Jews needed to return to their homeland. So he formed the first Zionist Congress, the opportunity to bring all of us together. And by the way, they didn't have TV. They had to do this thing called a letter and send it out and wait 8 weeks for a response. And Jews from all over the world came together. And they started debating. They debated, we should return to Israel and it's our land by the Bible. We should return legally. We should return and with fighting and battle.
Who gave them the land?
So what did they do? Our organization. They came to a different conclusion. Let's repurchase the land. Now I use the word repurchase because all those arguments are fair. But if you want to sit around and argue, you go nowhere. So they raised money in little tin boxes. People took food off of their plate, put it in a box to give it to somebody like me based on hope and dreams of 2,000 years. And acre by acre by acre, we repurchased the land of Israel. So much so that Israel is one of the only nations in the world that has a purchase order as part of its existence. And so those stories have to be told. The lines that were drawn by the British who controlled the land, and by the way, the trees, Israel has 280 million trees hand planted. Now, why was that an important piece? It was under Ottoman law that we were buying the land. Then we were buying swampland. It was not land. Nobody was selling us land that they wanted to sell. They sold us land, and we planted pine trees, not to grow forests, because in Ottoman law you had 7 years to either hold your land or grow on your land. So they planted with the idea they'd pull it out. Then they found out about watershed management, beautification, environment. But then under the British mandate, they drew this line of this crazy border. Borders are built based upon seas and mountains and valleys. Why this? It was the land owned, repurchased by the Jewish National Fund. If we would have been able to do a little bit more, then we would have had the biblical areas of Judea and Samaria. We would have had even more land. But it was a legally purchased property by the Jewish people.
Tell us a little bit, what happened and what was your organization's response to October 7th and the attack on Israel?
So I was in Israel on October the 7th. And it was in the morning. There had been a lot of this going on. Not what happened October 7th, but a lot of shelling. Matter of fact, we had been prepared. Not for October 7th. We knew that there was always going to be evacuations. So we had even planned for evacuations because whenever shellings came and they would last over 24 hours, we would evacuate people out for 2 or 3 days, a week. Nobody really knew what was happening on October 7th. I'll tell you a personal story. Was one of my friends, Ophir. Immediately I was supposed to see Ophir that night. I'm sending my WhatsApp, and he sends me back the praying emoji. Ophir was dead 30 minutes later. The brutality and the killing that was done is undescribable. There's nothing I wouldn't do it. There's nothing you could have seen, done, that could even give you an imagination of the inhumanity to man. And it deals with Holocaust, we talk about never again. And sometimes we get a little soft on that training and that teaching because hard to understand how you could teach about killing 6 million people. And really, people could put people in an oven and turn them into ashes. It's kind of unreal. What happened on October 7th, and 1,200 people, by the way, the equivalent to over 3.5 million Americans being killed, slaughtered, children, people going to a concert, mothers in front of their babies, babies in front of their mothers, and we went to action. So when we realized the enormity of it, we moved 29,000 people out of what they called the Gaza envelope then, now called the Israel envelope, the communities facing the Gaza Strip. We moved them out within 48 hours because we knew where to move them, because we had a plan for the 2-week. We moved, communities called us and said, listen, you got to move us as a whole community. So one community, 390, we found them a place to be. When they got there, they had sheets, they had pillows, they had toothpaste, things you got to imagine. If you took, 20 million Americans and evacuated them,
wow,
and you stuck them in hotels across the country, and you're not doing it organized, you're getting them to wherever they can go. So you're breaking up not families, but friends. And you're putting 4 people to a room in a hotel. And 4 months later, they're still at that point. And just imagine a family, 4 or 5, in a hotel.
yeah,
Not for a week, 2 weeks, month. A father and a mother lost their job. We had to find educational opportunities for the children to give normality back, whatever normality was at that point.
yeah.
All of a sudden you have children. We took 3,700 people to a community that only had 5,300 the day before. We were delivering 800 diapers a week because the biggest store there was like a 7-Eleven.
Yeah. So everything they needed, y'all had to provide.
Every day we're taking those calls. Every day our situation room was open, and we always thought it through. What can we do? How do we do it? So when we said medicine kits, it's not medicine kits of antibiotics. It was an Advil and a toothpaste, the mouthwash, all the things. When you open up your kitchen cabinet and you open your bathroom cabinet and you take for granted and you grab something, imagine now you're away. You don't have any of it. And we provided those pieces of normality to what it is. And now we're working very hard to moving people back because we have their trust because we worked with them for 20 years. And the whole idea of disaster recovery is moving people back with a circle of pain that I cannot get rid of. But with people like you and others, everybody standing by their side, that circle of pain will go for a generation.
What has been the response of the Christian community? We're going to come back and ask that question and answer it here in just a minute. We're going to take a break, but I want to find out how our viewers can get involved in making a difference in Father Abraham's heritage. We'll be right back right after this.
My name is Maddox and I'm 14. I like football because it keeps me entertained, and I've had history with my family. They like to play football. I kind of like school. I got a couple subjects I'm not very good at, but I'm still working on it. I'm really good at math and science. I'm thinking about when I get older, I'm gonna get my GED, go to college, and play football for my college school. I've been in foster care for about a year now. It's been an all right experience. I'm still working on my problems too. I want to be adopted because I do like having family members. I like spending quality time with family. Because right now I don't really have anything to look up to.
So if you were to find a family that would take you in, what would you want to do with them? What kind of activities?
Just like spend quality time, maybe go to the park, do some stuff that we can spend quality time. My ideal family is a mom, a dad, some siblings, maybe just one. I don't really care. And one dog. I would want them to know that I do like family. I'm very protective over family. Once you get to know me, I'm actually pretty cool. I would wish for family.
Hey, welcome back to Second Chance Youth Ranch TV. I know our videos challenge you to get involved in hearts and lives of young children in foster care. But you know, here at Second Chance Youth Ranch and Family Church Bryant, we're not only impacting lives right here in Arkansas in foster care, but through our ministry and our ministry supporters, we're also helping the Jewish community down in southern Israel. And we want to talk about that a moment, Russell. So about 18 months ago, I just felt prompted by God's Spirit to reach out to Dr. Kathy Dorsch. I did not realize when I texted her that she was actually in what city?
Boston.
In Boston.
At our global conference.
And she said, well, I'm actually at the Jewish National Fund Global Conference. And I said, well, what are y'all doing? And we text back and forth. I think she was at a banquet table. And I said, well, so what are y'all trying to do? And she said, we're endeavoring to raise $100,000 for a storm shelter at our therapeutic
Riding Center.
And I said, and I just felt prompted by God's Spirit, I want to do $50,000 if you can get the community to join us with the matching. And she shared that with Reagan. And next thing you know, he shares it with you. And now, 18 months later, I'm talking to you, and the shelter is built. The garden center is built and dedicated, I believe.
Completed, and I have to tell you, first I'm going to tell you what it does for children the day before the October 7th, and meaning the time before. Therapeutic riding is for the children of the area who have physical and mental disabilities. Being on a horse, and I'm not talking from a therapist point, but you could see it. You could see a child with fears and trepidation. They get on the horse and do the horse therapy, and within moments, their strength is brought to them.
Yeah.
Now, this creates for the family. The whole idea of the family even comes and takes care of the horses. It's a real family piece. You have provided that. The bomb shelter that we did not have was putting us in a situation where how can you bring children to do therapy if there goes a siren and there's no place for them to go?
And that siren's not for tornadoes, it's for bombs.
It's for bombs.
Yeah.
And so we were in a dilemma. We're providing this unbelievable therapy for children, and yet the Army's telling us, and rightfully so, if you don't have protection, I can't have you bring your children there.
Yeah.
So you, the community of Arkansas, your ministry came through.
Wow.
Now I'm going to tell you how it has even become a blessing since. On October 7th, we're moving people to the area. Now, by the way, the greatest thing about the gift that you made, I'm going to tell people, I want everybody to know, it's not in the middle of the country. It's not in the easiest place to give where you could get the most, quote, recognition. Yeah. You came through by knowing that it wasn't about the recognition, it was about the impact where other people may not be going. And it's taking care of children who maybe other people are not taking care of. Yeah. So after October 7th, we moved thousands of evacuees to this area. And they opened up their arms and houses. You have to understand, it's going to you and saying, 6 months ago, if I ever had a person, an evacuee, can I put 5 people in your home for a week? And you said, okay. But then a week later, it became 4 months. No complaints. Yeah. But the Therapeutic Riding Center, remember, we're moving people. There wasn't a checklist, okay, nobody with physical and mental disabilities, no, we moved people. Yeah. And then we started finding people who needed therapies. And we had a place. And if we didn't have that bomb shelter, not only was it helping the community that was there yesterday, it's helping an entire group of people who were traumatized. Wow. Who were facing death. Many of them had family members that were either injured or killed. They're facing being relocated and dislocated from their homes. And every day that therapeutic center is open. When I tell you it's open, sunrise to sunset. Yeah. And they're there because you provided for.
Well, let me tell you an interesting story. We're building a new school right now, a school building 15,000 square feet right here on this property. And when I got the plans approved back in the fall, when I went to get my permits to build the building, you know what they told me we needed here at our school? A storm shelter.
Wow.
And incidentally, from the time we committed that $50,000 gift to match a $50,000 gift from the Jewish Fund, someone gave $80,000 to this ministry, and that's going to be used to offset the cost of our storm shelter. And that's the principle of giving, and God gives back. And it's the principle of blessing Abraham's seed, and whoever blesses Israel, God will bless.
Well, I will tell you then, I hope that neither child has to use it.
Yeah, for sure.
I hope it stays empty.
Yeah.
I hope it gets cobwebs.
Yeah.
It's not going to. Ours nor yours.
Yeah.
But when a child enters yours and a child enters ours, to know that there's children from people who care, are being taken care of. And when you talk about Abraham, you know, one of our works has been in Beersheba. And I tell people this, it's a magical point. We're going to be by building a pathway that's going to be part of a pathway of remembrance and Zionism, and it's going to end at a place called Abraham's Well.
Wow.
Abraham's Well, where our conversation first began, where our bloodlines come from. And there at Abraham's Well, we're also going to have a village, and we want your children, your ministry, when we open it, to come, people who care about life, who want to take life and make the world a better place. We want them all together, from Barcelona to Birmingham to Little Rock to Kiryat Shemona and Beersheba. People coming together and having a conversation on shared values and common destiny. And right next to us is Abraham's Well.
That's powerful. We got 30 seconds. What can Arkansas and people in the VTN viewing audience with internet all over the world, what can we do as believers in Yeshua? What can we do to help the Jewish community? You've got 25 seconds.
So I'm going to tell you very quickly. I wear a diskette. This diskette is about 130 hostages. Hostages that are being held. Hostages that are being traumatized beyond your belief. Please write congressmen, senators, mayors, anybody, make sure that they help the hostages come home now. Then the Jewish National Fund, we have our resilience campaign. Go to thejewishnationalfund.org. Join us. Join us on our volunteer trips that we have every week going to Israel. And join us on rebuilding and building a strong partnership together.
When Abraham's seed joins with Christians, God's going to do something supernatural. And we're looking forward to the coming of Messiah, aren't we?
I'm going to tell you that we're coming, that the whole concept is about a people making a world a better place. That is together.
That is. And that's the principles and the promises of Father God to all of humanity. Thanks for watching Second Chance Youth Ranch TV. We'll see you next time right here on VTN. God bless. Bye-bye.